Long time before Adesola, or even you or I, were born, the gods of Nigeria waged long-standing feud that shaped their divine realm. Among this rivalry, none was as fierce as the one between Oya and Oshun. Legend speaks of a time when Shango, the god of thunder, united these powerful deities as co-wives. Oshun's irresistible charm and culinary prowess kept Shango enchanted, while Oya simmered with envy, desperate to claim his art. In her desperation, Oya sought Oshun's advice, unaware of her rival's cunning. Welcome to Fortune City Tale. And this story happened in Sun City. Do remember to like, comment and share the video. Subscribe to enjoy more beautiful works like this, and let's continue our story. Feed him your flesh, Oshun suggested slyly, presenting a small piece of what appeared to be a own ear as proof of her devotion. Trusting her, Oya followed the grim advice, sacrificing part of herself to please Shango, but instead of winning his affection, Shango recoiled in horror. For flesh, particular of this kind, was forbidden to him. It was then Oya learned the truth. Oshun had tricked her, displaying not her own ear but that of a goat. So, humiliated and seething, Oya's anguish darkened the sky, and her tears gave rise to a mighty river. Oshun, reveling in her victory, laughed and transformed it to a river herself, mocking Oya's pain. For days, their waters clashed with unrelenting fury, until a divine arbiter intervened, separating them with stones and cementing their internal enmity. Now, in present-day Nigeria, the rivalry between Oya and Oshun stirs once more, not directly through the gods, but through the lives of mortals. Long ago, the mortal and immortal realm coexisted in Fortune City, but the insatiable thirst for dominance among some gods, like Oya, forced a boundary to be drawn between these two worlds, and this boundary was drawn in Sun City. Now, to maintain the balance, the gods learned to channel their influence through mortal champions. For every few decades, a competition would arise, its true purpose known only to the immortals, through which the victor would claim leadership over both worlds. The stage is set once again. Oya, driven by her unyielding desire for supremacy, schemes to manipulate the mortal realms while humiliating Oshun, since Oshun's daughter, Adesola, a demigod, would be competing in this year's championship race. Adesola might have been prepared for years, if only she was aware of her role or her power. Now, she has to face Oya with no knowledge of who she was. Adesola sat in front of the large mirror in a small but cozy apartment. The golden sunlight pouring through the window danced on her glowing skin, a feature that made her stand out in the modeling world. It was the morning of another big rehearsal for the Crown of Elegance competition, a modeling contest that had the entire country buzzing. Winning this competition would not only bring fame, but also the crown itself, a rare prize tied to prestige and influence. She picked up her makeup brush and began to work on her face. As she did, she couldn't help but think of Amara, her biggest rival. Amara was bold, confident, and had a way of making every room she entered a stage. The media loved to compare them, often framing their rivalry as a fight between the old and the new. Amara had been in the industry longer, but Adesola's rise had been swift and unstoppable. Today is another step, Adesola whispered to herself, as she put the finishing touches on her makeup. At the rehearsal venue, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Models, stylists, and photographers moved like bees in a hive. Adesola walked in, wearing a simple dress that hugged her figure tightly. Heads turned as she made her way to her spot. Fashionably late, as always, Kemi, her publicist and close friend, teased as she handed Adesola a bottle of water. Not late, Adesola replied with a smile. Just perfectly on time. Kemi rolled her eyes and laughed. You know, Amara is already here. She's making sure everybody knows she's the favorite to win. Adesola's smile faltered for a moment. She had worked hard to get to this point, but it always seemed like Amara had an edge. Let her have a moment, Adesola said quietly. We will see who shines on the final day. Now, during the practice work, Adesola noticed something odd. Amara seemed unusually confident even for her. The smirks, the whispers with others, the glances in her direction, it all felt different today. She's plotting something, Kemi said later during their lunch break. What do you mean? Amara, a sponsor. There's a rumor that they are pulling strings behind the scene to make sure she wins. Adesola frowned. She had heard of models being backed by powerful people, but she had always relied on her talent and hard work. Still, something about this rumor unsettled her. That night, Adesola returned home exhausted. She sat by the window, looking out at the city's light. Her dreams of becoming a top model were coming true, but it felt like the path was getting darker and harder to work. As she stared at the stars, she remembered the strange dreams she had been having. A beautiful woman, her feature glowing like the sun, kept appearing to her. She spoke in riddles, calling her daughter and telling her to be strong. Who are you? Adesola whispered to herself as she kept watching out the window, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. For now, she had no answers. All she knew was that the competition ahead would test her like never before. Now, what Adesola didn't know was that some years ago, her adoptive mother, Tunde, was at the lowest point of her life. Tunde had spent years trying to have a child with her late husband. She was faithful, hopeful, and certain that one day she would hold her own baby. But after a careless mistake by a doctor during surgery, her chances of having children were gone. The news broke her heart and tore apart her marriage. Her husband left her and Tunde was left alone. Now, unable to bear the weight of it all, Tunde decided to end her life. One quiet evening, she walked to the Oshun river, planning to drown herself and leave behind the pain. As she stood by the river, tears flowed. She whispered her final words to the river Oshun. But instead of death, she found life. Lying on the riverbank was a baby wrapped in a soft white cloth. The baby's golden skin seemed to glow in the moonlight. She was crying softly, as if calling out to Tunde. At that moment, Tunde felt something stir in her. It felt like a sign, a reason to live. She took the baby into her arms and promised to raise her as her own. From that day forward, Tunde devoted her life to Adesola. She gave her all the love she could and worked hard to ensure Adesola grew up happy and safe. But Tunde never told her daughter the full truth about how she came into her life or about the night at the river. Now, as Adesola prepared for the competition, Tunde watched her with pride and fear, knowing there was more to Adesola's story that she could imagine. Adesola's dream continued days later, each one more vivid than the last. The glowing woman, her face hidden but her voice unmistakable, called out to her, "Daughter, you must prepare. Your destiny is close." Adesola couldn't comprehend the dream even during the day. However, everything changed for her days later. At a photo shoot for a popular brand, something unusual happened. As the photographer clicked away, Adesola felt an energy rise within her. The room seemed to freeze and every eye was on her, captivated not just by her beauty, but by something deeper. Her beauty had always been an asset, but now it felt different, as if it was doing more than just drawing attention. When the shoot ended, the makeup artist whispered, "There's something about you today, Adesola. It looks like you are glowing from within." Adesola smiled but was shaken. She wasn't sure about what was happening, but the sensation was undeniable. As she left the studio, her thoughts turned back to the dreams and the strange feelings she couldn't escape. She stared at herself in the mirror, waiting for hours, hoping that the glow would resurface, but nothing happened. So the day after the photo shoot, Adesola arrived at a press event, brimming with excitement. Her mood, however, quickly shifted when she spotted Amara basking in the spotlight and flaunting a connection. Amara's sponsor, a prominent businessman, ensured everybody knew that she was under his wing. The display felt like a direct challenge to Adesola, who had worked tirelessly to build a reputation on her own merit. As Adesola took her seat, Kemi leaned with a smirk. "So it's true. People are saying Amara has got more than just sponsorship deal helping her out." Adesola shot a glance at Amara, hoping Kemi was exaggerating, but Amara met her gaze with a knowing, insidious smirk that sent a chill down Adesola's spine. A thought spiraled, fleeting from the cryptic dreams she had been having to the whispers surrounding Amara's mysterious backer. Adesola stared blankly at the bustling world outside the venue, imagining a simpler life, one free of fame, cameras, and the way of expectations. A life where she could rest without nagging feeling that something ominous was closing in. So that night, as Adesola slept, the glowing woman returned to her dream. This time, she stood, fully visible, her radiant face unveiled. "Who are you?" Adesola asked, her voice steady despite her unease. "I am Oshun," the woman replied, her voice melodic yet firm, "the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility." Oshun began to recount the story of how Tunde had found and raised Adesola. She revealed through vision the truth about Adesola's divine origin and the purpose behind the dream. "Something great is coming," Oshun warned, but her tone heavy with urgency. "The darkness that threatens Sun City, Fortune City, and all of Nigeria. You must enhance your power, Adesola, or evil will consume everything." Adesola listened intently, her heart pounding. She asked questions and Oshun patiently explained everything she needed to know. When Adesola woke, her heart raced. She had always felt different, but now she understood why I had chosen her for a higher purpose. Yet, her joy was tinged with sorrow, for she loved Yetunde, the woman who had been a mother in every way that mattered. Now that she knows the truth, everything seemed complicated. As Adesola grappled with her newfound identity, Tunde, her journalist boyfriend, was deep in his investigation of the Crown of Elegance competition. What he uncovered disturbed him and he feared for Adesola's safety. So that morning, he called her. "We need to talk," Tunde said, his voice tense. "There's something you need to know about this competition. I think you should drop out." He was currently out of town but would come to meet her as soon as he could. Adesola agreed to meet him later, though her mind was already swimming with questions. As Tunde continued his investigation, she braced herself for the truth yet to come. The fear, however, was becoming stronger in the air. Adesola noticed it first in Amara's eyes. During the rehearsal for the Crown of Elegance, Amara, who was unusually confident, seemed strangely distant. She moved mechanically as if someone else was pulling the strings. At a photo shoot the next day, while trying to use the toilet, Adesola overheard a conversation between Amara and one of her sponsors. "You need to win this," the sponsor said firmly. "Oya is counting on you." Adesola had been feeling at bringing the power Oshun said was in her to life. Now knowing that Oya was working with Amara sent a chill down Adesola's spine. Oshun had told her the story and rivalry between them and how it was important that she watched out for any of her schemes. She told her that Oya was a goddess of storm and destruction, a powerful force who wasn't interested in fairness or beauty contests. She was out for control and would use somebody. Now, Adesola was sure that Oya was going to use Amara. Sometimes, during her rehearsals or at home, Adesola could feel like she saw a glimpse of Oya in the mirror or the corner of her eyes, but she just wasn't sure enough. Also, Adesola couldn't help but notice how robotic Amara moved, her skin glowing like she was under the influence of something. This new knowledge made Adesola worried as she wasn't sure she could do what was needed of her. Adesola felt at loss because she still haven't found a way to control her power. Not that she was all that eager to even use it, but knowing how to use it would help her. Yet, even that, since her power was still unpredictable, she didn't know how to stop Oya. So as they passed, the tension between Oshun and Oya built. Adesola could feel it. Oya's presence in the air was heavy and suffocating. The competition was only a small piece of a much larger battle that had been brewing for centuries. Adesola knew she was caught in the middle of something bigger. One evening, after a long rehearsals, as Adesola sat alone in her apartment, staring at her reflection in the mirror, Oshun appeared. Oya's influence is spreading. You must embrace your heritage and your power. Only then can you stop her. Your training is yielding good results, but you must do better, Oshun said to her. Adesola tried, she really did, but her fear was too much for her control. She had never wanted to be part of a divine conflict. She had just wanted to be a model, to live a normal life. But now she understood that her beauty and her strengths weren't just for herself. They were a gift, a responsibility, and a conflict attached. A life she wouldn't wish on anyone. Her phone buzzed with a message from Tunde. We need to talk. I found something about the competition. It is bigger than we thought. I'm returning to Fortune City soon. Adesola's heart skipped. She knew what he was talking about. However, reading his message scared her than every other thing happening in her life. Her dream life was gradually fading from being guided to her experiencing life-altering warlike lifestyle that might soon consume her. Since the time she learned about her heritage, she had been pining to say something to Tunde. But how will she do that? Will she say, hey, I'm the daughter of a goddess? Yeah, I'm a demigod. There was no way she could do that. The days leading to his return felt like forever. She kept staring out the window when she wasn't staring at herself in the mirror. The world felt like it was sapping out all the joy in her. And true to his words, Tunde was back in no time. One evening, while reviewing her photos for the competition, Adesola's phone buzzed. It was a message from Tunde. Meet me. I have to tell you something. She met him at a quiet spot near the water where she could talk without anyone listening. I know who you are. I know what you are, Tunde said, his voice trembling. I know your real mother is Oshun and I've been investigating Oya's plan. Adesola stared at him in shock. What do you mean? How do you know who I am and why didn't you tell me before? Well, I recently just found out too and I didn't want to hurt you. But now everything is coming to her head. I know Oya's plan. So Tunde proceeded to tell her most of what she already knew. With this information, she was sure she could use him as an ally, saying that it was really hard to explain to other people about the situation. She wasn't concerned about the crown. All she needed right now was to get out of this situation. And then the final stage of the crown elegance was fast approaching. So, despite Tunde knowing, Adesola felt the weight of the competition bearing down on her. She had never been this nervous, not even at the beginning when she had first stepped into the world of modeling. Most times, whenever she passed by Amara's door, which Amara was leaving open these days to intimidate other contestants, Adesola could see that Amara's confidence had grown, yet Adesola could see it for what it was. Oya's influence was pushing Amara forward, making her believe she was invisible. It was unfair, but then again, life wasn't always fair, was it? The night before the final set of events, Adesola met with Kemi. They sat in the hotel lobby as they spoke in low voices. You've got this, Adesola, Kemi said, offering a smile that was more comforting than anything else. Adesola wished she could explain the situation surrounding the competition to Kemi, as well as her fear, since Kemi didn't know the depth of the conspiracy. However, Adesola felt Kemi remaining in the dark was the best option. So that night, Adesola lay awake, unable to sleep. Her thoughts were jumbled. She was torn between wanting to win and wanting to be a true self. The day of the competition arrived. Adesola stood backstage, dressed in her final outfit for the crown of elegance, surrounded by the models. Hair was thick with nerves and anticipation. She could hear muffled sounds of the audience, the buzz of excitement from the crowd outside. Even as they made their first round of competition, Adesola couldn't help but notice how Amara walked by. Her steps unnaturally confident, almost robotic. Adesola could not help but notice the dark circles under Amara's eyes. It was as if they were consumed by something or someone else. When it was finally her turn, Adesola stepped onto the stage. The light hit her and she felt the familiar pull of the crowd's gaze. But this time it was different. It wasn't just her beauty they were captivated by. She could feel the power stirring within her stronger than ever. For a moment she hesitated. She wanted to use her hidden power, but it felt wrong to use it at this point. Especially when it was looking like nothing was happening and all the fear she had was merely in her head. Even as she returned backstage, she knew if she tried using her power, people wouldn't see the true meaning of the power and probably call her freak. She hated how she was going to be a pawn in the inability of the gods to control their temper. The second to the last day came and Adesola hoped she hadn't dreamt up the whole thing. Maybe Oya changed her mind. Maybe everything could change. Adesola wished she could see beyond the robotic match of Amara, but she only saw someone that looked like a determined young person. If Adesola didn't have the information she had, maybe she was just imagining things. The last day, Adesola looked out the window and saw no sign of trouble coming. She knew she couldn't tell anyone. As she prepared backstage, her mind raced with everything she had learned. She wasn't just a model, she was the daughter of Oshun, caught between two worlds. She had to stop Oya, but the price might be higher than she was willing to pay. Moreover, all this might be wrong because she was seeing nothing that suggested that anything evil was happening that day. Kemi later found her in the dressing room, even as she was looking out the window, and Kemi encouraged her before she started getting prepared. Although Kemi's encouragement was merely a form to help her win the competition, Adesola took in the words as if they were all she needed to fight Oya if the case was so. Just as Kemi left, Tunde appeared, his face tense. I've gathered all the information we need. Oya is using Amara to influence the judge. She's already manipulating their thoughts, but there's something we can do. Adesola told him a fear that she had been looking around and didn't know if they have anything to fear about. Tunde lets Adesola know that he had to use her power because every sign pointed to Oya's effort to win the competition through Amara, and immediately Amara won the competition, everything would be in Oya's favor. She hoped he wasn't right, but in case he was right, she did a quick trial run to see if she could control her power, and soon the glow spiraled around her, creating a spark that made her know he was ready, even if Oya came knocking. Now the crown of elegance competition was in full swing. The judges were already starting to whisper among themselves. Oya's presence was in the air, thick and oppressive. Adesola's heart pounded with each passing moment. The final decision was close and she was at the center of it all. While she stood backstage waiting for her turn, she felt a sudden wave of energy, an overwhelming pull. Oshun appeared in her mind again. My daughter, it is time. You must confront Oya and claim your true place. Adesola's breath caught in her throat. She thought of Yetunde, her adoptive mother, who had raised her with love and care, but the pull of the divine world was undeniable. She had to know the truth. Tunde came beside her, his face filled with concern. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I have, Adesola whispered. Oshun was just here and she said it was time. It looks like the truth. If truly this conflict was to start, Adesola was going to work towards ensuring both Oshun, her mother, and Oya restricted their feud to their world and not interfere with human lives again. Tunde standing by her side seemed to sense her internal turmoil. Adesola, I know this is hard, but we've been through so much together. I don't want you to feel alone in this. She reached out for his hand, grateful for his support, and then it glowed. At that moment, she had a vision of different forces trying to pull her. both Oya and Oshun. One wanted to stop her on the basis of her mother, and the other wanted to use her as a tool to stop her enemy. Both of them were trying to make her something she wasn't. As she glanced into the sky, she saw the cloud gather and become dark. Her fear about Oya was finally manifested. She now had to invest in using her power. However, she chose to only allow a light shine whenever she saw the dark force of Oya around her. So as she made her first walk on the stage, she didn't want to try to use her power. Nonetheless, as she looked into the eyes of everyone there, she could see something beyond their eyes. Most of them were getting dazzled by Amara. And truly, when Amara stepped onto the stage, her eyes glazed with Oya's power. She moved like a puppet, her every step controlled. Adesola felt a surge of anger. She couldn't let this happen. With a deep breath, she stepped forward. She embraced her power. The beauty and strength she had always had were no longer just a gift, they were a weapon in a fight against Oya. Because people were beginning to zone up, muttering, Towa, Kowa, Dawa, Awomoe. Towa, Kowa, Dawa, Awomoe. Their voices became louder as Amara moved from one place to another. The forces from the old beauty queen was overshadowing everyone. The fear could be caught with a sword. The roof went off and the skies became darker. Everywhere was cold, and even those outside could feel it. Tunde watched from the sideline, his heart in his throat. You can do this, Adesola whispered to himself, even as people around him were muttering, Towa, Kowa, Dawa, Awomoe. Quickly, Adesola invoked her power and spread her hands. Light flooded the room, starting with a glow to the head. It soon became a mighty glowing light that radiated through her hands. She flicked her hands in wonder to see what she could do. As she controlled the darkness to a side, lightnings lined the sky and Adesola held on to the power. Oya didn't let this slide. She fought her with the little power she could muster in the air since she was within another realm. Yet, even though storm blew Adesola, she persisted and spread with such desire that everyone would be saved. Adesola stood at the center of the stage, her heart beating with the force of 1,000 drums as she spread her hand. They were there for hours until everything calmed, and it was left with a clear sky. Everyone under the spell sat up, knowing what had just transpired. They began clapping for Adesola. The judges didn't need to confer before selecting Adesola as the winner. She had just won the crown of elegance. Standing tall, her heart swelled with pride as people's round of applause made her look from place to place. The war between Oshun and Oya had left its scar, but it was over for now. Oya's influence had been broken, but the consequences of the divine conflict were far from over. Adesola felt the weight of her crown on her head, but it was nothing compared to the responsibility she came with. As she walked off the stage, Tunde met her eyes, his face filled with pride. You did it, he said, his voice soft but full of awe. Adesola smiled, but her mind was elsewhere. She had claimed her place as both a mortal and a divine being, but it was only the beginning. The world she had known was changing, and she had to help guide it, no matter the cost. Like one driven by the wind, Adesola found herself drifting through streets until she came to Oshun River. There, she began wading through waters until all that was left of her body was just the waves above. However, she didn't drown, but was instead transported to a different world. There, she was faced with the different gods of Yoruba land, all of whom were excited about her joys. Soon enough, she began to navigate between both worlds. She most times liked to hold on to her natural self of being a regular human, walking down the road, but it was all over. She was obliged to wear a crown always. In the new palace they gave her, she was now the ruler of the mortals who know about the god. To others, her palace was just a grand house, but to the gods, it was a place to settle matters. Her love for Tunde didn't wane. Together, they enjoyed the beauty of the city, while she still maintained the choice to keep both Oshun and Oya in their places by showing them that despite being Oshun's daughter, she had no vendetta against Oya. Her life as queen almost seemed lonely, But Tunde filled in the space and guided her hand when she wanted to fall. They both have accepted their responsibilities to work together. She would rule kindly, serve as the leader between worlds, make just judgment, and he would be by her side. At the end of each day, she looked at herself in the mirror and reminded herself that she was once a model. Seeing people go about their daily lives and doing all that they wanted was just enough reward for the sacrifice of leaving everything she knew behind and taking up this role of leadership. Thanks for watching and listening to Tales from Fortune City, and this story again happened in Sun City. So do remember to like, comment and share this video. Subscribe to enjoy more beautiful work like this. And remember, everyone is important, especially you.